0020 Introduction. It's a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks are striking 13. Winston Smith, a frail man of 39, with a varicose ulcer above his ankle, slips quickly through the doors of Victory Mansions in London. But he's not enough to escape the gritty dust that follows him in. The hallway smells of boiled cabbage and old rag mats. On the wall, a poster shows an enormous face, a man of about 45 with a heavy black mustache. The caption reads, "Big Brother is watching you." Winston takes the stairs. The lift never works. The electricity is cut off during daylight hours as part of the economy drive for Hate Week. In his 7th-floor flat, a voice from a metal plaque on the wall reads out pig iron production figures. Winston turns the switch. Can't turn it off completely. The telescreen receives and transmits simultaneously. Every sound above a whisper is picked up. Every movement, except in darkness, is scrutinized. You have to live, do live from habit that becomes instinct, in the assumption that you are always watched. Outside, even through the closed window, the world looks cold. Posters plastered everywhere show the same black mustachioed face. In the distance, a helicopter skims between the rooftops, the police patrol, snooping into windows. But only police matter. A kilometer away, the Ministry of Truth rises white and enormous, miniature in Newspeak. 3 slogans are picked out on its face. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. 4 ministries divide the entire apparatus of government. The Ministry of Truth handles news, entertainment, education, and the fine arts. The Ministry of Peace concerns itself with war. The Ministry of Plenty handles economic affairs, and the Ministry of Love maintains law and order. The Ministry of Love is the one that frightens everyone. No windows, barbed wire, machine gun nests, gorilla-faced guards in black uniforms. Winston has never been inside, nor within half a kilometer of it. 2000, the diary. Winston turns from the window. He crosses to the tiny kitchen, pours himself nearly a teacupful of Victory gin, colorless, oily, sickly-smelling stuff like Chinese rice spirit. He nerves himself and gulps it down like medicine. His face turns scarlet. Tears run from his eyes. It burns like nitric acid, but the burning dies down, and the world looks more cheerful. He goes back to the living room and sits at a small table to the left of the telescreen. From the drawer he takes a penholder, a bottle of ink, and a thick quarto-size blank book with a red back and marbled cover. The telescreen is in an unusual position, on the longer wall, not the end wall. There's a shallow alcove where Winston can sit outside its range of vision. He can be heard, but not seen. He's gonna open a diary. This isn't illegal. Nothing is illegal, since there are no longer any laws. But if detected, it means death, or at least 25 years in a forced labor camp. He fits a nib into the penholder, sucks it to get the grease off. He procured this archaic instrument furtively, with difficulty, because the beautiful creamy paper deserves a real nib, not an ink pencil. He dips the pen. Faltering, a tremor goes through his bowels. To mark the paper is the decisive act. In small, clumsy letters, he writes, April 1984. He sits back. Complete helplessness descends on him. He doesn't know with certainty that this is 1984. 84. It must be about that date. He's 39, born in 1904 or 1945. But nowadays you can never pin down any date within a year or two. For whom is he writing? For the future. For the unborn. How can you communicate with the future? Either it will resemble the present and won't listen, or it will be different and his predicament will be meaningless. For weeks he's been making ready for this moment. The actual writing would be easy. Just transferring to paper the endless restless monologue that's been running inside his head for years. But now, even monologue has dried up. In sheer panic, begins writing. His small, childish handwriting straggles up and down the page. April 4th, 1984. Last night's, all were films. One very good one of a ship full of refugees being bombed somewhere in the Mediterranean. Audience much amused by shots of a great huge fat man trying to swim him away with a helicopter after him. Then he was full of holes and the sea round him turned pink. Audience shouting with laughter when he sank. Then you saw a lifeboat full of children. A middle-aged woman might have been a Jewess, sitting up in the bow, with a little boy about 3 years old in her arms. The helicopter planted a 20-kilo bomb in among them. The boat went all to matchwood. Then there was a wonderful shot of a child's arm going up, right up into the air. A lot of applause from the party seats, but a woman down in the prole part of the house suddenly started kicking up a fuss and shouting they didn't ought to have shouted in front of and they didn't until the police turned her out. Nobody cares what the proles say. Winston stops writing. Cramp. He doesn't know what made him pour out this stream of rubbish, but while he was doing it, a totally different memory clarified itself in his mind. It happened this morning at the ministry. 8 to 8:30. The 2 minutes hate. Nearly 1100. In the records department, they're dragging chairs out of cubicles, grouping them in the center of the hall opposite the big telescreen. Preparation for the 2 minutes hate. Winston takes his place in the middle row. 2 people he knows by sight come unexpectedly into the room. One is a girl from the fiction department, about 27, bold-looking, thick hair, freckled face, athletic movements. A narrow scarlet sash, emblem of the Junior Anti-Sex League, is wound round her waist. Winston has disliked her from the first moment. She carries about her an atmosphere of hockey fields and cold baths and community hikes and general clean-mindedness. He's always suspected she might be an agent of the thought police. The other person is O'Brien, a member of the inner party. Large, burly man, thick neck, coarse, humorous, brutal face, but with a certain charm. He has a trick of resettling his spectacles on his nose that's curiously civilized. Winston has seen him perhaps a dozen times in as many years. He feels deeply drawn to him. There's something in O'Brien's face that suggests his political orthodoxy might not be perfect. He looks like a person you could talk to if you could cheat the telescreen and get him alone. O'Brien takes a chair in the same row, a couple of places away. The hate starts. The face of Emmanuel Goldstein flashes onto the screen. The enemy of the people. A lean Jewish face, with a great fuzzy aureole of white hair and a small goatee beard. It resembles the face of a sheep. Goldstein is delivering his usual venomous attack on the doctrines of the party. He's abusing Big Brother, denouncing the dictatorship, demanding peace with Eurasia, advocating freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, freedom of thought. Before 30 seconds pass, uncontrollable exclamations of rage break out. The sheep-like face, the terrifying power of the Eurasian army behind it. Too much to bear. In its second minute, the hate rises to frenzy. People leap up and down, shouting at the tops of their voices. The little sandy-haired woman next to Winston has turned pink, her mouth opening and shutting like a landed fish. Even O'Brien's heavy face is flushed. The dark-haired girl behind Winston is crying out, "Swine." She picks up a heavy Newspeak dictionary and flings it at the screen. Winston finds himself shouting with the others, kicking his heel against the chair rung. The horrible thing about the 2 minutes hate is not that you're obliged to act a part. It's that you cannot avoid joining in. A hideous ecstasy of fear and vindictiveness flows through the whole group like an electric current. And yet the rage is abstract, undirected. At one moment Winston's hatred isn't turned against Goldstein at all, against Big Brother and the party. His heart goes out to the lonely heretic on the screen. The next instant he's at one with everyone else. By a violent effort, Winston succeeds in transferring his hatred from the face on the screen to the dark-haired girl behind him. Vivid hallucinations flash through his mind. He would flog her to death with a rubber truncheon. He would tie her naked to a stake and shoot her full of arrows like Saint Sebastian. He would ravish her and cut her throat at the moment of climax. He hates her because she's young and pretty and sexless, because he wants to go bed with her and never will, because round her sweet supple waist is only the odious scarlet sash. The hate climaxes. Goldstein's voice becomes an actual sheep's bleat. His face melts into that of a Eurasian soldier, advancing huge and terrible. Then the hostile figure melts into the face of Big Brother, black-haired, black-mustachioed, full of power and mysterious calm. The group breaks into a deep, slow rhythmical chant, BB, BB, over and over, very slowly, a heavy murmurous sound. Winston's entrails grow cold. This subhuman chanting always fills him with horror. He chants with the rest, impossible to do otherwise. But there's a space of a couple of seconds when the expression in his eyes might betray him. And exactly at this moment, he catches O'Brien's eye. O'Brien has stood up, taken off his spectacles, is in the act of resettling them on his nose. For a fraction of a second their eyes meet. Winston knows, yes, he knows, that O'Brien is thinking the same thing as himself. An unmistakable message has passed. I am with you, O'Brien seems to be saying. I know precisely what you are feeling. I know all about your contempt, your hatred, your disgust. But don't worry, I am on your side. Then the flash is gone. O'Brien's face is as inscrutable as everyone else's. 8:30 to 12. The proles, the past, and the golden country. If there is hope, Winston writes in his diary, it lies in the proles. 85% of the population, the swarming disregarded masses, only they could generate the force to destroy the party. The party cannot be overthrown from within. Its enemies have no way of coming together, even of identifying one another. Rebellion means a look in the eyes, an inflection of the voice, at most an occasional whispered word. But the proles, if they only become conscious of their own strength, would have no need to conspire. They need only rise up and shake themselves, like a horse shaking off flies. Surely sooner or later it must occur to them, and yet, Winston remembers walking down a crowded street when a tremendous shout of hundreds of voices, women's voices, burst from a side street. A great formidable cry of anger and despair. His heart leapt. It started. The proles are breaking loose at last. When he reached the spot, it was a mob of women crowding round a street stall selling tin saucepans. The supply had given out. Two bloated women had hold of the same saucepan, trying to tear it out of each other's hands. The handle came off. Winston watched them disgustedly. And yet, what almost frightening power had sounded in that cry from only a few hundred throats? Why could they never shout like that about anything that mattered? Until they become conscious, they will never rebel, he wrote, and until after they have rebelled, they cannot become conscious. He thinks about the past. The party slogan, who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. The frightening thing is that it might all be true. If the party can thrust its hand into the past and say of this or that event, it never happened, that is more terrifying than torture or death. The party says Oceania has never been in alliance with Eurasia. Winston knows that only 4 years ago, Oceania was at war with Eastasia and in alliance with Eurasia. But where does that knowledge exist? Only in his own consciousness, which must soon be annihilated. If all others accept the lie, if all records tell the same tale, the lie passes into history and becomes truth. Reality control, they call it. In newspeak, doublethink. To know and not to know. To be conscious of complete truthfulness while telling carefully constructed lies. To hold simultaneously two opinions that cancel out, knowing them contradictory and believing both. To use logic against logic. To repudiate morality while laying claim to it. To forget whatever is necessary to forget, then draw it back into memory when needed, then promptly forget it again. And above all, to apply the same process to the process itself. Even to understand the word doublethink involves the use of doublethink. But Winston clings to something. Freedom, he writes, is the freedom to say that 2 + 2 make 4. If that is granted, all else follows. He dreams of his mother. She had disappeared when he was 10 or 11, swallowed up in one of the great purges of the 50s. In his dream, she is sitting in some subterranean place, his baby sister in her arms, both of them looking up at him as they sink down into green water. They are dying so that he might remain alive. There is no reproach in their faces, only the knowledge that this is part of the unavoidable order of things. And then the dream shifts. He is standing on short springy turf, a summer evening, the slanting sun gilding the ground. An old rabbit-bitten pasture, a foot track wandering across it, a molehill here and there. In the ragged hedge, elm boughs sway faintly, their leaves stirring in dense masses like women's hair. The dark-haired girl is coming towards him across the field. With what seems a single movement, she tears off her clothes and flings them disdainfully aside. Her body is white and smooth. What overwhelms him is the gesture, its grace and carelessness. It seems to annihilate a whole culture, a whole system of thought, as though Big Brother and the party and the thought police could all be swept into nothingness by a single splendid movement of the arm. Winston wakes with the word Shakespeare on his lips. 12:16 seems sound, Julia. One day, in the long brightly lit corridor at the ministry, the girl with dark hair stumbles and falls almost flat on her face. Her right arm is in a sling. She must have fallen right on the injured arm. Winston stops short. She's risen to her knees, her face a milky yellow, her mouth standing out redder than ever. Her eyes are fixed on his. "You're hurt?" he says. "It's nothing. My arm." She holds out her free hand. He helps her up. In the 2 seconds while he's helping her, she slips something into his hand. He goes to the lavatory. In his pocket, he feels it with his fingertips, a scrap of paper folded into a square. He manages to get it open. Written in large, unformed handwriting, "I love you." For several seconds he's too stunned even to throw it to the memory hole. When he does, he can't resist reading it once again, just to make sure the words are really there. The rest of the morning, it's very difficult to work. Feels as though a fire is burning in his belly. They arrange a meeting. Victory Square, near the monument. 19 hours. He gets there early, wanders round the base of the enormous column. At 5 past, she still hasn't come. Terrible fear seizes him. She's changed her mind. Then he sees her, standing at the monument, reading a poster. A convoy of Eurasian prisoners is passing. The crowd surges forward. Winston shoves, squirms his way through. Soon he's within arm's length of her, shoulder to shoulder, staring fixedly ahead. In the trucks, little yellow men in shabby greenish uniforms squat jammed together, their sad Mongolian faces gazing out. All wear leg irons. The girl begins speaking in an expressionless voice, lips barely moving. "Do you hear me?" Yes. "Can you get afternoon off?" Yes. She outlines a route. Half-hour railway journey. Turn left outside the station. 2 kilometers along the road. A gate with the top bar missing. A path across a field. A grass-grown lane. A track between bushes. A dead tree with moss on it. Can you remember all that? Yes. Then get away from me, as quick as you can. At the last moment, while the crowd still hems them in, her hand finds his and gives it a fleeting squeeze. Their hands are clasped together for perhaps 10 seconds. He explores the long fingers, the shapely nails, the work-hardened palm, the smooth flesh under the wrist. It occurs to him that he still doesn't know what color her eyes are. They meet in the golden country. He picks his way up the lane through dappled light and shade. Under the trees, the ground is misty with bluebells. The air seems to kiss one's skin. He's a bit early. He kneels down, begins picking bluebells, partly to pass time, partly from a vague idea that he'd like to have a bunch of flowers to offer her. A hand falls lightly on his shoulder. She leads the way along a narrow track into the wood. They come to the fallen tree she spoke of. She forces apart the bushes, and he follows her into a natural clearing, a tiny grassy knoll surrounded by tall saplings that shut it in completely. She turns to face him. Her name is Julia. She's 26. She works on the novel writing machines in the fiction department. She was a troop leader in the Spies. She does voluntary work for the Junior Anti-Sex League. She always looks cheerful and never shirks anything. Always yell with the crowd, she says. It's the way to be safe. She rips off the scarlet sash of the Junior Anti-Sex League and flings it onto a bough. She produces a slab of chocolate from her pocket, real chocolate and shiny, wrapped in silver paper, and breaks it in half. She hates the party. She says so in the crudest words, but she makes no general criticism of it. Except where it touches her own life, she has no interest in party doctrine. She's never heard of the Brotherhood, refuses to believe in its existence. Any kind of organized revolt strikes her as stupid. The clever thing is to break the rules and stay alive. The sex instinct, she tells him, the party tries to kill it. But they can't. When you make love, you're using up energy. Afterwards, you'll happy and don't give a damn for anything. They can't bear you to feel like that. All this marching and cheering and waving flags, it's simply sex gone sour. Their embrace is a blow struck against the party, a political act. 1600 to 2100. The room, the book, the betrayal. They rent a room above Mr. Charrington's shop. Mr. Charrington is an old man with a long, benevolent nose and mild eyes distorted by thick spectacles. He wears an aged jacket of black velvet. He talks about the old days, remembers fragments of forgotten rhymes. Oranges and lemons, say the bells of Clements. The room has an enormous mahogany bed, a gay-leg table, a clock with a 12-hour face. No telescreen. Winston buys a glass paperweight from the shop, a heavy lump of glass, curved on one side, flat on the other, with a strange pink convoluted object like a rose or sea anemone at its heart. It's a little chunk of history they've forgotten to alter. The room is sanctuary. To know that it's there, inviolate, is almost the same as being in it. Julia brings real coffee, real sugar, white bread jam. She paints her face, lipstick, rouge powder, scent. In this room, she says, she's going to be a woman, not a party comrade. They lie side by side in the huge bed, the summer air drifting through the open window. The paperweight catches the light. The room is a world, a pocket of the past where extinct animals can walk. One day, O'Brien stops Winston in the corridor. He speaks of Winston's Newspeak articles. He mentions a dictionary. He scribbles an address on a scrap of paper, directly beneath the telescreen, so anyone watching can read it. Winston knows what this means. He has reached the outer edges of the conspiracy. He and Julia go to O'Brien's flat. It's richly appointed, soft carpets, white-jacketed servants. Brian turns off the telescreen. He pours wine, real wine, dark red, gleaming like a ruby. They drink to Emmanuel Goldstein. Yes, Goldstein exists. The Brotherhood exists. Winston and Julia are now members. O'Brien tells them they will fight in the dark, receive orders without knowing why. They will be caught. They will confess. They will die. We are the dead, O'Brien says. Our only true life is in the future. He gives Winston a book, Goldstein's book, The Theory and Practice of Oligarchical Collectivism. Winston reads it in the room above the shop. It tells him nothing he doesn't already know, but it systematizes his knowledge. It confirms that he is not mad. Being in a minority, even a minority of one, does not make you mad. There is truth, and there is untruth. Sanity is statistical. He falls asleep murmuring it. When he wakes, Julia is still asleep beside him. The woman in the yard below is singing. We are the dead, Winston says. We are the dead, Julia echoes dutifully. You are the dead, said an iron voice behind them. The picture has fallen from the wall. Behind it is the telescreen. Mr. Charrington stands in the doorway, but he is not Mr. Charrington. His hair has turned black. He is not wearing spectacles. His body has straightened. His face has undergone tiny changes that work a complete transformation. It is the alert, cold face of a man of 35. Winston realizes, for the first time in his life, that he is looking, with knowledge, at a member of the thought police. 20 to 25:30. The Ministry of Love. He is in a high-ceilinged windowless cell with walls of glittering white porcelain. Concealed lamps flood it with cold light. 4 telescreens, one on each wall. He does not know how long he has been here. He does not know whether it is day or night. They beat him. Sometimes fists, sometimes truncheons, sometimes steel rods, sometimes boots. He rolls about the floor, shameless as an animal, writhing this way and that in an endless hopeless effort to dodge the kicks. Sometimes he screams for mercy before the beating even begins. He confesses to everything: assassination of party members, distribution of seditious pamphlets, embezzlement, sabotage, espionage, murder of his wife, though his wife is still alive. It is easier to confess everything and implicate everybody. O'Brien interrogates him. O'Brien's face is enormous, hideously ugly from below, filled with a sort of exultation, a lunatic intensity. We do not merely destroy our enemies, O'Brien says. We change them. We make the brain perfect before we blow it out. No one whom we bring to this place ever leaves our hands uncured. He shows Winston the photograph of Jones, Aronson, and Rutherford at the party function in New York, the proof that their confessions were lies. Winston sees it with his own eyes. It exists, he cries. No, says O'Brien. He drops it into the memory hole. It does not exist. It never existed. I remember it. You remember it. I do not remember it, says O'Brien. Winston's heart sinks. That is doublethink. And it is perfectly possible that O'Brien has really forgotten. How many Winston? 4. And if the party says it is not 4 but 5, then how many? 4. The pain shoots through him. The needle on the dial jumps. How many fingers? Winston. 4. 4. What else can I? 4. The needle rises again. The fingers stand before his eyes like pillars, enormous, blurry, vibrating, unmistakably 4. How many fingers? Winston. 5. 5. No, Winston. That is no use. You are lying. You still think there are 4. 4. 5. 4. Anything you like. Only stop the pain. You are a slow learner, Winston. How can I help it? How can I help seeing what is in front of my eyes? 2 and 2 are 4. Sometimes, Winston. Sometimes they are 5. Sometimes they are 3. Sometimes they are all of them at once. You must try harder. It is not easy to become sane. O'Brien tells him about room 101. The worst thing in the world, O'Brien says, varies from individual to individual. In your case, the worst thing in the world happens to be rats. An oblong wire cage sits on the table. It is divided lengthways into 2 compartments. There is a creature in each. They are rats. The cage has a mask-like attachment fixed to the front. The mask will fit over your head, says O'Brien. When I press this lever, the door will slide up. These starving brutes will shoot out of it like bullets. Have you ever seen a rat leap through the air? They will leap onto your face and bore straight into it. The cage moves closer. The foul, musty odor strikes Winston's nostrils. Everything goes black. For an instant he is insane, a screaming animal. And then, from the blackness, he clutches an idea. There is one and only one way to save himself. He must interpose another human being between himself and the rats. He is shouting frantically, over and over. Do it to Julia. Do it to Julia. Not me, Julia. I don't care what you do to her. Tear her face off. Strip her the bones. Julia. Not me. 25-30 to 28. The last man. He has beard. They give him new clothes, new teeth, regular meals. He grows fatter, stronger. He exercises. He learns doublethink. He accepts everything. The past is alterable. The past never has been altered. Oceania is at war with East Asia. Oceania has always been at war with East Asia. Jones, Aronson, and Rutherford were guilty. He never saw the photograph. It never existed. Freedom is slavery. 2 and 2 make 5. God is power. He sits in the Chestnut Tree Cafe. His usual corner, his usual table. The chessboard is always waiting for him. The waiter brings his gin without being asked. He sees Julia. They meet by chance in the park, on a vile biting day in March. She has changed. Her waist has thickened, stiffened. Her face is sallow, with a long scar across forehead and temple. She gives him a quick look, full of contempt and dislike. I betrayed you, she says. I betrayed you, he says. Sometimes they threaten you with something you can't stand up to, can't even think about, and then you say, don't do it to me, do it to somebody else. At the time when it happens, you do mean it. You want it to happen to the other person. You don't give a damn what they suffer. And after that, you don't feel the same towards the other person any longer. No, she says, you don't feel the same. They part. He doesn't try to follow her. He goes back to the chestnut tree. It is warm in there. 28-30 victory. A trumpet call pierces the air. The bulletin. Victory. A vast seaborne armada has assembled in secret. A sudden blow in the enemy's rear. 500,000 prisoners. Complete demoralization. control of the whole of Africa, the greatest victory in human history. Under the table, Winston's feet make convulsive movements. In his mind he is running, cheering himself deaf. He looks up at the enormous face on the wall. Colossus that bestrode the world, the rock against which the hordes of Asia dashed themselves in vain. 40 years has taken him to learn what kind of smile is hidden beneath the dark mustache. O cruel, needless misunderstanding, O stubborn, self-willed exile from the loving breast. 2 gin-scented tears trickle down the sides of his nose. But it is all right. Everything is all right. The struggle is finished. He has won the victory over himself. He loves Big Brother.